Peace be with you. This is the 24th Sunday after Pentecost. And intuitively, as I stared at today's gospel, I knew there was something fishy about Matthew's parable, but I wasn't clever enough to name it. So I checked with the five Gospels by Robert Funk and Roy Hoover, and they ticked off a list of what should be in a Jesus story, but isn't in this one. First, the punchline should cut against the grain of the religion or society. That's what we expect from Jesus. Secondly, it should assert something that shocks or is a reversal of expectations and beliefs. But this story from Matthew is sort of homely, common sense caution to be prepared. Third, there is no humor, exaggeration, or paradox in this story, something we also expect from Jesus. Fourth, there's nothing unique about the 10 maidens story, and a good Jesus parable always punches through with something special. Finally, a Jesus story or parable attacks social boundaries and tears them down, while this one kind of preserves them. Well, enough said. I just wanted to give you a reason for why I'm not going to address this gospel story. Be prepared if you want, but I prefer to be grateful this morning. And gratitude is what I want to zero in on. Lake water. Whatever lake, river, stream, ocean, waterfall, or fountain is the one that you call home. Lake water is that element for me whose voice I can hear, whose eyes I can look into, whose touch calms and inspires me. Water is the sacred wine of the earth, the conduit of the holy bleeding into the soil, into the air, into our bodies. Water, lake water, I am grateful for it. I'm a child of fields and forests who grew up on land once covered by trees or prairie grass that is now an expanse of furrowed farms where corn and wheat and soybean grow and get stored in silos the size of downtown office buildings. Even so, sassafras and oak and beech and hickory, locust and maple trees form the canopy over the steep hillsides and ridges where I played. Yet apart from those forests, the aroma of hogs and cows spread like jam over the dark soil in spring sits in my memory as much as the autumn scent of new wet leaves on top of last year's dead ones melting into the deep, rich forest floor. For others, it might be vineyards or the boreal constellation of birch, poplar, conifers, and the aroma of fruit trees letting go of their sweetness. Whatever it is, I am grateful for forests and for fields. Green, brilliant spring grass green with canary yellow dandelions by the thousands. And dark spruce green and pale ivy green and 37 shades of green seen on any summer day looking out your window from your porch. So many shades of green, but not green only. Dark brown dirt, the dingy brown corn stalks, the sloppy brown mud, the milky coffee mud puddle brown, the rippled rough tree bark brown, shades and shades of green and brown, but also blue. Blue sky and water, so many shades of blue layered from the horizon far, far, far up above. I'm grateful for color. I'm grateful for touch. My dog's muzzle nuzzling my cheek, Katie's hand just reminding me she's there, a hug on Sunday morning at the door to say, I'm happy to see you. Silken soft wood worked to the smooth of a baby's bottom and a fuzzy tennis ball, or the warm, soft freshness of a newborn skull. So much to touch and be touched by. I am grateful. I'm grateful for touching and being touched. Oh, and the imagination. What would the insides of our brains be without imagination? It would be dark chaos and echoes of to-do lists and lonesome, simple darkness. But imagination, imagining light when surrounded by a kind of darkness, whether it be the time of day darkness or the human kind of darkness, or imagining faces of those we haven't seen for a long time, or maybe a very long time and we'll never see again. Imagining how some of those who we lost would smile or react at something that gave us pleasure in the moment. Imagining a solution to a problem, or imagining a problem without a solution, or imagining a new character who presents a problem to the other characters you've already imagined in a story that's full of imagination. Or imagining a sermon when all you've got to work on is Matthew's story, the 10 maidens. I am grateful for imagination. A dog, a cat, a naked mole rat. A friend of old and those who are new. The blood that runs through family and the family that isn't blood. Those we gather with and the gatherings we count on to be with one another. I am grateful for all of that. I am grateful most of the time, no, all the time, for the God who whispers when I least expect it, or clobbers me on the head when I most need to understand something I've been resisting. That God. The God whose small light illuminates the deepest darkness and whose great lights shine from the beginning of time all the way to now. That God, the God who holds me and knows me by name, even as it holds the Milky Way and breathes love on Neptune. That God in whose wisdom and love and presence I am somehow able to sit with hope, even as others I know well seem so hopeless. I am grateful for that God and the hope that that God has given me to always carry in my back pocket. And one more, though I could go on and on. I'm grateful for the cosmos that our teeny tiny planet is swallowed up in. The one whose stars cannot be numbered and whose dark matter cannot be seen and whose beginning is only a theory and whose mysteries are more in number than the sand. That cosmos that makes my smallness feel okay and whose beginning and end makes everything else that takes place on our planet seem like just more ticks of the clock, and that somehow it's comforting. So you've heard me say this before, especially those who have been with me at a funeral. Gratitude heals grief. Not all at once, but over time. And we have grief. Oh, do we have grief. You and I have lost so much over the years. We probably can't even count the number of family and friends who we have lost to death, and others we simply do not get to see very often anymore. But on top of all those loves, those of us who have added a few years here and there have lost parts or functions of our bodies, things that hurt now that didn't used to, or don't work now that used to work just fine, or capacities that are limited but which used to seem limitless. We grieve, whether loudly or quietly to ourselves, for those parts of ourselves. And for anyone listening who isn't that old yet, use the imagination I was just giving thanks for, because you've lost bits and pieces too, just not enough yet to work through the denial. Anyway, we have grief. We look around and listen to the way the world is, the way our nation is, the way our town is, the way our neighborhood is, and we can remember when we thought we would be better than this. So we grieve for what we had hoped for or believed in or simply desired, but know is beyond our reach at this moment. Grief is the counterweight to joy. And we have joy too, but joy doesn't come in the same abundance as grief does. Maybe sometimes it does, but I think of I think grief runs through our lives like water, and joy visits us like the sound of water moving in and out of earshot. But thankfully, gratitude heals grief. Even what begins as an all-encompassing grief gets whittled down over time when it's held in gratitude. What once felt so painful we had to live in the fog to get by mellows with gratitude, so that we begin to remember the one or the thing that was lost, but now remember it for them with joy, with humor, with appreciation. There will always be grief for those that we love most, but one day we will suddenly realize that our grief is held in our gratitude rather than the other way around. So gratitude, what we are thankful for, is not just a nice sentiment that comes once a year with turkey legs and gravy. It is an active ingredient in the life of those who wish to live life more abundantly. Without the capacity to call up and touch and rise up our gratitude, we will have a much smaller, more brittle, and much less abundant life. Thus, my wacky and highly personal list of the things I'm grateful for. I hope that in the course of my spewing forth gratitude, that your gratitude has been kicked up like dust in a whirlwind. I hope that my strange little list of Thanksgivings poke you to think about yours, and if not, that when you go home and you're waiting for the Bills to play tonight, you will suddenly remember this litany of Thanksgiving, and it will rock you into your own. And now, finally, I am grateful for a message I received this week from someone in another state who worships with us each week through our YouTube videos. Serendipitously, or maybe not so, this person emailed me a list of what she is grateful for on the very afternoon I was writing this sermon on gratitude. She wrote that she's grateful for, quote, drawing down the holy and those being present with her through the years, simple presence. And she wrote, picturing the ground laden with fallen persimmons, ready to be pulped for the harvest pudding and a 1964 State Fair purple ribbon winning recipe. And she wrote, for the gift of closing my eyes and listening to Lisa's soul through her fingertips. She may replay When Summer Ends anytime she wants for me. So I am grateful for this little community, how it travels farther and farther than we can ever imagine. I am grateful to you. Thank you.